lot of women actually don't know what it feels like to feel good. We live in this just whole environment now. Our food system, everything is different. We're living chronic stress day to day. We don't know what foods could be making us feel bad, things that could be causing blood sugar issues to where you're crashing after. And you don't have to be bloated to have gut issues. You could have skin issues going on. You could have more arthritis and inflammation in the body, feeling puffy, things like thyroid issues, autoimmune conditions. All of these, your gut truly impacts.
Hello and welcome to the Biohacker Podcast. I'm Azra and Elizabeth, your host and founder of Biohacker. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach specializing in longevity for women, a health and wellness journalist, writer, corporate consultant, and a biohacking advocate. Biohacker is a space where we can explore ways to optimize our health to live well longer. Whether it's through improving our nutrition, exercising, cryotherapy, supplementation, technology, and more, I'll be bringing you information and interviews with the best longevity experts to help you understand what you can do to optimize your health, prevent disease, and slow down or even reverse the symptoms of aging by taking control of your unique bio-individuality. Want to know more? Let's dive in. Hey Elizabeth, welcome to the Biohacker Podcast. Super excited to talk to you today, all the way from Florida, no doubt. What's the time over there?
Oh my gosh, it is 5 o'clock here, but we've been on a 12-hour workday. We're going strong, still energized.
Fantastic. Look, your own health journey, I think, is really fascinating and will probably resonate a lot with women. Walk us through what happened for you. You had severe gut dysfunction. Looking back now, what do you think were the biggest warning signs that were missed by doctors?
Yeah. Do you mind if I just kind of go through my whole health story and kind
Yeah,
of share that?
absolutely. Yeah, I would love
Awesome.
to.
So I had chronic health issues my whole life. When I was a little girl, I had eczema, rosacea, head to toe. Gut health was not a thing back then. So, of course, I was put on the steroid creams, the ointments, all of that. And when I was age 13, I bumped into a girl at school and she always had lice. It triggered such severe OCD. I would not go back to school. I started counting everything, the floors, numbers, how much I touched things. And I was put on antidepressants. I was homeschooled. And within that 1 year, I gained over 50 pounds. So here I am, head to toe rosacea, eczema, chronic anxiety, numb on medications, going to therapy. I did not feel normal and I had no self-confidence. Fast forward a little bit, I ended up getting back to school. I slowly got myself off the medication, and my friend was vegetarian. She looked phenomenal. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go vegetarian because I don't feel good and I want to lose the weight. So I did the unhealthy version of it, special K cereals, anything in a box labeled vegan and vegetarian. And my skin started clearing up. And with the vegetarian diet, coupled with Dance Dance Revolution over my Christmas break, I lost my first 25 pounds and I started feeling better. And that was really the start of my health journey. Things kind of kept going though. I'm that Virgo, I'm that OCD girl. So I started getting very dogmatic about my diet. And when I started getting compliments, oh my God, you look good, you look like you're losing weight, I took it more and more extreme. I got to my all-time low. I was basically living off of Special K everything because it tasted good. I felt like addicted to it. And I got down to 90 pounds. So I went from 180 down to 90. I was over exercising. I was not feeling enough. I developed an eating disorder. I had to come to that realization in order to want to make a change. Didn't matter who told me. I had to figure that out. Once I did put my weight back on. I got healthy, but I kept pushing it with my diet. I came across the raw vegan diets because I was still struggling with chronic constipation, bad gas, bloating all the time, no matter what I ate. So I was always trying to look for a solution. And I started this raw vegan diet, tons of nuts and seeds and soaking and sprouting. That felt super heavy in my gut. So then I came across something called the 80-10-10 diet, which is basically a fruitarian diet, 80% carbohydrates coming from fruits, 10% protein, 10% fat from nuts and seeds. So a day of food would look like breakfast, 10, 15 bananas, lunch, 4 mangoes the size of my head, dinner, the size of a salad enough to feed a party. And I was eating 3,000 calories a day. I was maintaining a healthy weight. But 1 year into this diet, I woke up, I was in college now. I looked 6 months pregnant. All my gut issues were worse. I could drink a sip of water, my stomach would swell up. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I started becoming addicted to laxatives. I worked with all the top people in the raw food industry, doing everything from mono fruit island to living off of just bananas for a month. I was trying to run a marathon, going to all these doctors, wondering why I'm holding 30 pounds of fluid so uncomfortable in my stomach to where everything just hurt me. And no one had an answer. They made me feel crazy. I was dismissed. I was told IBS, told to take Miralax Dulcolax, which that made me feel worse and still didn't work. So I came across one chiropractic doctor who stool tested me. We found out I had 15 types of parasites, severe H. pylori, the strongest amount he's ever seen. It was off the charts. I had SIBO, mast cell activation, and because I didn't know better, I just was like, I want this gone. So I did antibiotics. Of course, a month into that, all the parasites rehatched, all the symptoms came back. So I kept going through these die offs, kill phases, multiple rounds of antibiotics, multiple courses of triple therapy, and I kept getting worse. I got to that point where I was pushing in school, trying to run marathons. I had over 150 colonics. I was doing gallbladder cleanses on my spring breaks, traveling 2 hours to get the colonics on the weekend. I did not have a normal college life and making protocols every single week because I wanted to get better. And I got to the end of my college years. I went to one last doctor or holistic person that basically they were supposed to have this concoction that you drink that cleans out your small intestine, something called mucoid plaque. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be it. This is why I can't poop. I'm bloated, can't absorb my food good. And I went there and nothing worked. I was living in a hotel room. They thought I had a blockage. They sent me to the hospital. My mom flew out. I was in the car crying to her and I said, I am going to make my own 90-day game plan. 90 days is what it takes to kill the parasites, to get through the biofilm, to get to the eggs. I'm going to restore my gut motility. And after this, I'm done killing. I've been killing for 4 years. I've been struggling for my life. And in those 90 days, I went from a 5:05 marathon to a 3:35. I went from tons of laxatives, chronic constipation, bloating, even living off of like bananas to fully expanded diet, pooping daily, abs showing. And it was like, I was like, wow, I healed myself. That was my start of holistic medicine. And I loved every bout about it. So once I graduated college, I moved to LA, I became a trainer, and I started my bodybuilding journey. I bulked back up to 180 pounds. I was powerlifting, I put on tons of muscle. And then after 5 years, I cut sustainably to my physique and I started competing. In that time frame, I was able to heal my body. I got off the raw vegan. I expanded my diet back again. I did so many different things I played around with in between. But when COVID hit, that took everything kind of backwards. I was in a relationship. I ended up with losing my cycle. They thought I had PCOS. I moved back to Miami. I started getting chronic anxiety, getting crippling anxiety. And even my dog started getting chronic health issues. He started getting hemorrhagic diarrhea. He was basically on his deathbed. I was in the hospital with him because he was hemorrhaging blood out of him. And they put me on Xanax. I was losing all my muscle. I figured out that because I went back to school to become an FDM practitioner, I found out I was living in chronic mold. I had severe mold toxicity. I have the MTHFR gene mutation. So I can't do things like, glutathione, and I'm very sensitive. So I got to the point where I was back down to 2 ingredients. My nose was running everywhere, eyes were wandering, crippling anxiety, bloating everywhere, chronic fatigue, wasting away muscle. I had to figure that out. I got myself off of Xanax because one weekend I was becoming addicted to it. And I'm like, this is not the answer. And I healed myself and I was able to expand my diet. And now, because of that experience, my one stop shop, I work with clients all around the world that have things from MS, mold toxicity, Lyme disease, endometriosis, PCOS, dismissed by doctors. And I'm able to test everything, root cause them, and heal their body. And at the same time, their body transforms because I see so many women looking for fat loss, but I know we're going to talk about it today. It all starts in your gut.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And it's amazing
It
how
does.
many people are impacted by gut health issues and without even realizing that that's the case, they get gaslit by their doctors or they go down one avenue of treatment,
Yeah.
but that doesn't work. It's very similar to what you've gone through. And I think there are thousands of women around the world going through that as well, but are very frustrated because they can't get the help that they need. What's the first thing
Yeah.
that you think a woman should do if she suspects that she's got gut health issues?
So number one is don't self-diagnose yourself and say, I have parasites, I have candida, so I'm going to go buy a cleanse on the internet and do it because you do not know what is going on in your gut. And those herbs and everything are very, very strong. So they could actually cause more inflammation in the gut. You could kill off, a little bit of the good bacteria that you have left, and then you're left feeling worse. I always say we want to test, not guess, but you need to also find a practitioner that you could work with that is not, I'm going to throw this out there because I myself wasted $10,000 with one person to be set back 10 times the amount. And I see it with all my clients is a lot of the practitioners, they want you to spend all this money on testing. They look at the paper, they see you have X, Y, and Z, candida, H. pylori, whatever, and they put you on a very intensive protocol and then you retest and you try again. They don't address your gut motility. They don't address your nutrition. They don't address your nervous system. So what happens is you're not pooping. You don't know what to eat. You're bloated. You're not dealing with the stress. And all these factors are going to make you relapse and even correcting the insufficiencies because there's a reason why those bad guys have taken over. And if you just focus on the kill, the destroy, and you don't root cause it and rebuild and address the lifestyle too, you get in this cycle of spending thousands of dollars on testing, thousands of dollars on supplements. You're getting more sensitive to foods every single time. And then it's a circle pattern. And then your numbers are getting worse. My Klebsiella multiplied so much where I had blood coming out of me because of one protocol that I trusted the top person to put me on. And they told me when my test came back with 5 times the amount of that and now candida, that it's because we didn't go hard enough and we need to go harder because that just uncovered more layers.
Mm. What's the biggest misconception that people have about what good health looks like? Because some people live with their symptoms for many, many years thinking it's normal.
Yeah, and I think a lot of I'm just gonna since I work with women, use women out there. I think a lot of women actually don't know what it feels like to feel good. We live in this just whole environment now. Our food system, everything is different. We're living chronic stress day to day. We don't know what foods could be making us feel bad. Things that could be causing blood sugar issues to where you're crashing after. And you don't have to be bloated to have gut issues. You could have skin issues going on. You could have more arthritis and inflammation in the body, feeling puffy, things like thyroid issues, autoimmune conditions. All of these, your gut truly impacts. So I think those are the biggest things because so many people say, you eat so clean and you're so sensitive, but like how many people actually know what it's like to feel good? And that's one thing that a lot of women don't get there. So you're struggling with the chronic fatigue, the stubborn belly fat, the low libido. You're told your labs look normal. You told it's just aging. So you're trying to go on the internet and find the magic supplement, the magic diet, the magic protocol to get you there. But those protocols weren't built for your body. They aren't looking at what's going on with your metabolism, with your hormones. And that's why I really also love the functional labs because blood work looks at everything at one point of time. I do the Dutch test with my clients. So it looks at cortisol throughout the entire day. It looks at, if we have estrogen dominance, if we're recycling it. And it gives us such a big picture of what's going on. And even thyroid tests, the doctors don't even run the right ones. And that runs your
Yeah.
metabolism and your energy.
100%. We do the same. We get our ladies to do the Dutch hormone test when they come to our Live Longer retreat, and
It's
it's amazing how
amazing,
much
right?
it opens up. One lady was told that she wasn't even in
Yes.
perimenopause, and we got her to do the Dutch hormone test, and she was clearly in
Wow.
perimenopause, and she said, "Thank God, now I feel like I'm not going crazy. I know I'm not going crazy." And she's ready to divorce her husband, the
Yes.
poor thing. And this is that sort of impact it
Wow.
has on people when they don't get the right information. And as you've
Yeah.
highlighted, it's so bio-individual. And in terms of healing the gut, I mean, it's such a buzzword, right? It's all over the place, all over social media. But when we're looking at healing the gut, what are your thoughts on the prescribed approach? Because it is bio-individual and it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah. I love that you brought this up because what I see happening is we go on the internet and we see all the supplements, the probiotics, take this greens powder, take this fiber, it's going to fix us. And a lot of those have hidden ingredients in there. They may have specific probiotics and prebiotics that if you have things like SIBO going on or dysbiosis that make you feel worse, there could be gums in there that make you even more bloated. And if we have things like gastritis and everything, yet we're dealing with constipation and we follow generic advice of take more fiber, that could irritate the gut more. So that's the first thing of don't do. And when it comes down to it, everything is very individualized to the person, meaning when I hop on a client discovery call, I'm asking everything about not only diets we tried, but even surgeries. Like, do we have a gallbladder going on? Are we pooping? How often and what are we taking for it? Do we have thyroid issues? Do we have yeast infections? Do you get histamine issues, allergies, runny eyes, redness, itchiness? Because there could be things like histamine intolerance going on. We could have SIBO going on. I asked if we've done colonoscopies and endoscopies and found things like EOE or even acid reflux because all of these are different insufficiencies. And that's why every person needs to be treated as that individual. So I run a full GI map stool test, but I also deep dive into my client's health history so that I'm able to, while we're waiting on getting those testing back, develop everything from their diet and protocol to start correcting the insufficiencies. So if someone has a lot of histamine issues, of course, we want to see if SIBO because and we want to do a stool test to see if there's histamine producing bacteria. But it's not as simple as just go to a low histamine diet. And if you throw in probiotics, a lot of those can increase histamines because they're specific strains. So we want to look at not bone broths, fermented foods, those healing foods, even avocados. All of those are high histamine and they could raise the bucket. But we want to actually get the histamine clearance down and then figure out what's going on in that gut and then correct the insufficiencies that can lead that bad bacteria, yeast, whatever it is to take over. Same thing with someone with no gallbladder. We want to actually make sure we're supporting the bile salts, look at the diet so that we're able to set up their nutrition protocol because when you don't have a gallbladder, you're still producing bile, but not a lot of it at once. So we want to make sure you have the right amounts of fats and everything so we are able to absorb your fat soluble vitamins, but not cause the nausea, not be able to break it down. And again, we got to work with that individual based off of their bio individually and what they've gone through. Hysterectomies, all of those like massive surgeries, they impact not just your hormones, but your gut, your liver, and all of those impact how your body is going to transform and respond and how you're going to feel.
Yeah. So many women report backs after going to see their doctor and having had blood tests, and the doctor says to them, "Oh, your blood tests are normal. You're all in the normal range."
Yeah.
What
Which
are
is
your
what the
thoughts?
unhealthy population range of the low of it.
Well, this is it, and I think a lot of people aren't educated about what the normal range
No.
means and how it's actually represented, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's normal for them or that it's optimal for them, and we would want people to be in the optimal range, one would think. Have you experienced that with your clients, and what are your thoughts on
Oh
that, and
my gosh.
how do you navigate that?
Yeah. That is every single client and discovery call I hop on. I'm like, "Well, have you had your thyroid?" "Yes, my thyroid is normal," the doctor said. I'm like, "Well, send me that test. I wanna make sure we tested the right thing." Nope, they tested not the wrong thing. I've even found Hashimoto's antibodies through the roof with some of my clients that had normal thyroid tests, we'll say, and blood work is the same thing. It's your hormones look fine, but I like to educate my clients. What I believe is that we're guides. Me and you were guides. But if we could help the individuals that come to us understand more about the labs, what to look for, what to ask for, to become their own health advocate, to me, that's the biggest win. And I feel like it's very empowering for a woman to be able to do that. I was, teaching one of my clients, like, this is what we want you to ask them for. The doctor said, I don't believe in any hormone testing because your hormones are all over the place during the month. But I will put you on hormone replacement therapy without even doing it. And she was like, Elizabeth, I can't even believe they told me that.
Oh my goodness, that is
I'm
outrageous.
like,
I
I'm
don't
like,
believe in hormone
no.
testing.
Yeah, and the one
Wow.
with Hashimoto's, the doctor said, "We'll look at your blood work again in 6 months." That's the one that I figured out had Hashimoto's because she was struggling, and I pushed her to take the test that I sent her, and they said, "We're not gonna put you on nothing, we're not gonna help you." This lady's almost bedridden with antibodies through the roof, and they're like, "We'll retest you in another 6 months and see what's happening." Not addressing diet, nutrition, nothing. Live with it, and we'll see where you're at in 6 months.
No. I think it's at that
No.
point when you have to decide to find a different medical practitioner. I went and saw this doctor, oh, it was probably a few months ago, and I had some friends that were raving about this particular medical practitioner. And I went in, I needed to get some bloods done, and I knew what I was looking for, but I thought, I'm just going to talk to her about something. I'm like, oh, look, I've got some histamine problems. What would you suggest for that? And it was a pure test, intentionally so. And she said, "Oh, just take some Zyrtec, or there's this cortisone spray that you can take." And I'm just like, "So, but what about the root cause? Should we not be looking at what the root cause is?" "Oh, no, I just think you should take some Zyrtec." And I'm like, "Okay, you're not the doctor for me."
I love that you brought that up. I had a lady coming to me, her whole body was covered in red. Her friend would write the word shitty on her, and it would show up as white on there. She spent $11,000 on allergy testing. She was living off of 7 Zyrtecs a day, doing the bone broth. She had severe mast cell activation. I knew that because 'cause I've been through it. Healed, dropped weight, everything working with me, but after spending 11 plus $1,000 and 6 or 7 Zyrtecs a day, she was, like, drugged trying to live her life.
That's insane.
Like,
Wow,
not
poor
a way to
thing.
live.
No, it's not, and they're Band-Aids, aren't they? Not even that. I mean, they actually contribute to the problem, I think, and create more
Yeah, all
issues.
the dyes and stuff that are in
Yeah,
there.
that's it, that's it. You've talked about things like SIBO, Candida, parasites, dysbiosis. I mean, there are so many different types of potential gut issues, and we hear a lot about these and various different platforms. Which conditions have you found are genuinely undiagnosed in your experience?
The biggest red flags that I see it is really different because I get endometriosis, I kind of get all of it, and if the person was living in toxic mold exposure, I see a lot of mast cell histamine issues, but I think a lot of things that I see on multiple stool tests, very low regulatory IgA, so the immune system is just very low in that gut. I see a imbalance in the opportunistic bacteria. Also, a lot of my clients come to me, they have H. pylori, and H. pylori is a gram-negative bacteria. It actually can cause stomach ulcers too. And when we see that, we typically have very low stomach acid. You can have a metallic taste in your mouth, be burping a lot, acid reflux. Doctors put you on acid blockers, which just make everything worse and lower your stomach acid. But I think those are big kind of trending ones that I do see is that H. pylori going on, and a lot of clients, they think, oh, if I have a SIBO breath test and that shows it, it's not just SIBO. That's why we do the GI map stool test because it shows us what else is going on. If we have SIBO, typically there's other things that come with it. So it's not as simple, just kill the SIBO. And we have to realize too that testing is a tool. There could be false negatives. There's other parasites and stuff that don't show on these tests. The goal is not to get everything to zero. The goal is to get it to where this person is having no more bloating, feeling phenomenal, energy through the roof. Things are within good, healthy ranges, and they got their life and longevity back. What happens is we all have parasites and things in our body, but when we lose that resilience, and then we start going all these kill phases and antibiotics and all these things, that's when the bad guys take over. And I think a lot of individuals don't understand too, because I hear this with women coming to me, which is why I want to address it. If you took tons of antibiotics when you're a little kid, that doesn't just restore. It doesn't matter that you didn't take them in the last year. It still did a lot of damage in your gut and your microbiome. And then if you were a C-section, if your mom was on a ton of antibiotics, so you came from her, it goes down. I was the rotten egg, I call it. I'm like, I was just born with all the gut issues, with all the eczema, I had asthma, you name it. I think I had the mold as a little kid growing up in Florida.
Well, yeah, you had a lot of health issues, so it's understandable that it
I
went back
did.
that far. And I can relate to that because I was on a lot of antibiotics as a child as well, and ended up with a whole heap of gut health issues and had gut dysbiosis and had to go through a
Yeah.
similar path to healing myself as well, as what you had. Let's talk a little bit about MCAS because we're seeing a little bit of an increase of MCAS. I've noticed it. I don't know whether it's just because more people are getting diagnosed and are being more aware of it, or whether that there is actually an increase as a
Yeah.
result of people's lifestyle choices. But what are you seeing?
I think that some people may self-diagnose them too as MCAS. We have to look at there is a difference between MCAS and histamine intolerance. As I mentioned earlier, if we have things like SIBO, we have low of that DAO enzyme. That's the enzyme that breaks down histamine, as well as if we look at a bucket. The bucket, I call it the histamine bucket. If we're filling this bucket with so much histamine, foods, because it's in a lot of things like I mentioned, it's in your bone broth, your fermented foods, it's in your cheeses, it's in what do you call it? Avocados. So if we're overloading this histamine bucket and your body's not able to clear it, then what happens? That's when all the symptoms show up. So it could be we have a bacteria in the body that produces histamines. It could be also we're living in chronic mold exposure and we don't know it. And that could be triggering that histamine issue. It could be the MCAS. So I think really also looking the deep dive at that person. I have women that come to me in a construction industry. And when you're in a construction industry, you're in a lot of different buildings. And those buildings could have black mold in them. And also, there's different types of mold, and some of them mimic estrogen. So if we're having hormone issues going on, like you could have a specific one that's mimicking that. So I think there's just so much from the environment, from our food, from the gut bacteria that could be happening, getting us to this place. But I do believe that there's so much we can do, and there's so many tools we can utilize to figure out what is going on and help that individual.
With MCAS, for those that might not understand what it is in terms of the symptoms, so mast cell activation syndrome,
Yeah.
walk us through what
Yeah.
somebody might be experiencing in their
Okay.
symptoms so that they understand what to look for.
Some for me, head to toe hives. So I would break out in rashes. My other client, she was red all the time, so constantly flared. Allergy symptoms too. So runny nose when you're eating, eyes watering, anxiety, depression, brain fog going on. Also joint pain. All of those are it. Even excessive bloating kind of going on, hormonal issues too. See a lot of my clients with endometriosis have very like histamine intolerant symptoms as well. But I think the most common one are more of those allergy symptoms, and then the red, itchy skin, the watery eyes.
Yeah, yeah. And what's your approach to supporting a client through MCAS and trying to get that
I
resolved?
do everything with first lab work, potentially doing mold testing too, myotoxin testing, depending on their history, and then working with the diet to unload that histamine bucket, working with the gut to correct the insufficiencies, and then full diet expansion coming back from that once we're able to root cause, correct the insufficiencies, look at the environment, and then also bring in that protocol to address the underlying issue, what's happening and rebuilding.
There's growing interest in the
Yeah.
gut-brain connection. How much of anxiety, low mood, brain fog, do you believe it can be traced back to what's happening in the digestive system?
I have clients that have healed their gut and got off of Xanax. I truly believe there's an amazing book called The Gut Brain Connection.
Yeah.
I had to read it a bunch because I never believed that stress and everything could impact your gut and vice versa. And it's like, I think they say in there, do not quote me on this, like one fight can impact your digestion for up to 3 days. So
It's
you may
crazy,
think you're
right?
reacting to the food, but it slows down your transit time. And we're always in a place where we're busy moms, we're on the go. We don't even sit down to eat anymore. So it's like we're in a fight or flight response, and then we're trying to eat. Then we feel bloated and heavy. So your nervous system, if we're in that state of fight or flight all the time, it's going to impact your gut. And at the same time, I love to throw this out there because I was put on SSRIs that work on your brain for anxiety and depression.
For those that don't
When
know what that is, can you just explain quickly?
Yeah. So think of SSRI, so serotonin uptake. It's basically antidepressants to make you
Yeah.
happy. But 80% of that is made in your gut. So how is that fixing the root cause? I'm off of everything. I was on antidepressants for over 7 years. I was on Xanax for I think a week or two, and I made myself get off. It was so hard to get off of it. But your gut's where you're breaking down your food. It's where you're absorbing your food. You're assimilating your food. So if we don't have proper gut health happening, then that could impact the brain because that's where serotonin's made. And if we're in the fight or flight all the time, that could slow down the gut motility and make your gut symptoms worse. So there really is a happy medium between the two. One thing that's truly helped me, because I can't meditate and stuff, is acupuncture.
Yeah.
Acupuncture has made it's my non-negotiable every single week.
And it's a good point that you make because not everybody can implement the same nervous system regulation approaches as others. So you just said that you can't meditate, so you get acupuncture. I mean, there's breath work that people can do. There's,
Yep.
going for a walk in nature. There's grounding. There's so many different options for people to be able to activate their parasympathetic nervous system. You can
Yeah.
even get technology these days to be able to, stimulate your vagus nerve.
I
Right?
My dad bought me some of those off TikTok shop, and I'm like, "Dad, would you ever turn this? They're charging you for 3 things. We didn't buy this." I'm like, "Oh my." He's like, "It looks cool."
And you don't need to though, because there are other things that you can do, like singing, humming, those sorts of things, tapping, you can there's lots of different
Oh,
ways that you can.
tapping.
Yeah.
Love tapping. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So there's lots of options, and I can relate because I struggle to meditate as well. So I don't want people to think that because they can't do one particular approach to trying to activate their parasympathetic nervous system, that there's no hope for them, that there's other options for them.
So many.
Yeah. How closely do you think that gut health and female hormones are connected, and can improving gut health genuinely influence symptoms of PMS and perimenopause and menopause?
I 100% do believe that. That's my personal perspective because I've had people bedridden with endometriosis during their cycle, and to just within a month of working at the gym, the lightest period feeling incredible. I think there's so much that goes on with inflammation in the body. Again, what we're putting in our body, but also I think a huge portion that's not looked at is because when we're women, we're dealing with these hormones. We typically want the fat loss. So we're not changing the lifestyle, not working on the stress, kind of just looking at that calories in versus calories out approach, steps and hitting your protein. You can eat all the protein in the world, but are you actually breaking it down and absorbing it? And that starts with your gut health. You could eat the cleanest diet, but if you're in a chronic state of stress, that's going to impact your hormones over time. So I've seen it. I feel like all of these aspects need to be brought together. It's not just one thing like eat this here or take this gut supplement and it's all going to fix. I think it's, like I said, getting the testing done is huge, but also working with the lifestyle, the food eating patterns and the nutrition. And when we incorporate all three of those together, the body starts thriving, the weight starts coming off, the hormones start balancing. Our body is amazing. It could heal itself. I got my cycle back naturally after I went postmenopause in my 20s. I lost my cycle for over 7 years. They just wanted to throw me on tons of birth control. And through my nervous system regulation, anti-inflammatory diet, the acupuncture, all of it, I was able to get it back so fast and balance things out. So I really do believe they impact it.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. We've talked a lot about, at a high level, I think, about the gut health issues, but let's do a bit of a deeper dive into microbiome specifically, because this really does influence a lot of people's gut health. What are three things perhaps that somebody could change to support their microbiome and achieve the biggest return, do you think? And I get that it's a holistic
Yeah.
approach, but
Yeah,
from a
yeah.
microbiome perspective, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
So number 1 is going to be the dairy and the gluten. It is just in the US filled with glyphosate. A lot of individuals don't even know they're sensitive to dairy. It could be the whey, the casein, or the lactose. And you may start dramatically feeling better just by those two things right there, cutting the dairy and the gluten. The second thing is actually sitting down with your meals off of technology and liquefying your food in your mouth. Digestion starts in your mind thinking about the food, but the second place is your mouth. That's where you're mixing it with all your enzymes. I love to tell myself this joke. I say, Elizabeth, your stomach doesn't have teeth. Because I used to be the girl like rushing through my meals, swallowing my food whole. But when you're off technology, so that fight or flight response, you're liquefying your food. That's already going to make a tremendous benefit in terms of breaking down absorption and assimilation of your food right there. And then my third thing would be 4-6 breathing. So I have my clients do this when we're going into that meal, like I talked about. We don't want to be in the state of chronic stress. That's going to put the body into the fight or flight response. All the blood goes towards the external extremities. So set your timer for just a few minutes. Do your 4-second breath in, 6-second breath out. When that out breath is slower than the in breath, it brings us out of the fight or flight response into the rest and digest, and you're preparing your body for just optimal digestion at that meal.
I love those tips, and I think they're all really
Yeah.
practical and really accessible to so many people. We often hear that healthy foods can cause digestive systems. And what do you think can help women distinguish between food intolerances, poor digestion, or an unhealthy microbiome?
Yeah, so I know a lot of women that come to me like the cruciferous vegetables or like I'm eating the cleanest diet. I still feel bloating going on. So when we go to these low FODMAP diets, so that's the fermentable carbohydrates, if you guys Google it, you'll see a food list. What happens if we're having a lot of gut issues and we go to these either low FODMAP or carnivore diets, we're cutting out a lot of the vegetables. So think of those as roughage in the gut and they feed the bacteria in the gut in a good way. It's like prebiotic food. But if you have an imbalance in the gut, that's where it could actually cause a lot of symptoms for you, the gas, the bloating, the gut issues. So when we go to these elimination diets, if we feel better, but then we add the food back in and we feel worse again, it's because we didn't get to the root cause. So there may need to be a little deeper dive of what's going on with that gut microbiome. A true food allergy, like for me, dairy, my throat will close with that. So an allergy is like anaphylactic. And I hear so many people say, I have an allergy to this when it's really a sensitivity. Sensitivities are completely different. It takes up to 3 days to have a reaction to a food. Sensitivity could show up more so in gas, bloating, those more digestive complaints. But if they're again to where you do these elimination diets and you're unable to expand your diet and you're still dealing with the bloating and the constipation or the IBS and the reflux and you've been on antibiotics and you have a history, then that's what really when we want to get a deeper dive of what's going on so we can correct the insufficiencies and be able to expand your diet again.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I think that there are so many misconceptions out there about the approach and what people can do, and getting that sort of guideline is so important and making it accessible. Probiotics is an interesting one as well, and it's a multi-billion dollar interest industry. But I mean, what are your thoughts on probiotics? I mean, they have their place, but are they worth taking, or do you think that a lot of people take them thinking that's that one pill solution? If I take this, it's going to solve all my gut health issues.
So I that's the last thing that I actually utilize with my clients because first off, if you got a lot of gut issues, a lot of the times I like to think of it as like a house, okay? You're trying to remodel a house. When you're putting good guys back in and we grab the strongest strains because we want to fix our bloating and constipation and all of it. And those actually could start killing off bad bacteria in the gut if you have a lot of dysbiosis. Or it may not be the right strain for you and increase histamines or things like SIBO. You're putting too much of the good bacteria in the wrong areas. So your symptoms may get worse before better. So I like to really address the root first, build the foundation, expand the diet. And then I'm very strategic about the probiotics that I use with clients. I've tried probably over 60 or 70 different probiotics on my journey, and I swear that there was only one that ever worked with my body. And I've gone up to ones that were like $200 a month from top doctors. So to me, if I can get my client to start expanding the diet, to have less symptoms, be on less supplements, that is a big win, because when we're taking 80, all these supplements, we could be reactive to something in the supplement and that could be keeping us from actually getting better. So I like to really kind of focus on just foundations for my clients, build the nutrition, see how far we can go there, then get the work back from the testing. And then from there, build out if we need probiotics or we need yeast strains going on, depending on what they have. If they have chronic yeast infections, or tons of antibiotic use, there's different strains out there because every strain too has a different purpose. If someone has chronic constipation, that may be a completely different strain that they need than the generic one that's just on the social media platform.
Mm. I noticed on social media you've helped a lot of women with perimenopause belly or menopause belly. What's your guaranteed approach to tackling that? Because so many women suffer with this and they're like, everything that I did before, it doesn't work anymore. And I just can't shift these rolls around my midsection. What do I do?
Yes. So all of my clients are actually eating more food, not less. But I structure everything with what to eat, when to eat, the foods to eat, supplement protocols so that we're able to actually balance out their blood sugar, which is huge to help with insulin sensitivity. Because as we get older, we're more insulin resistant, which is huge. And then we don't need 7 meals a day, bodybuilder style. So even with their gut, I built a protocol for them to help with breaking down their food, absorption of their food, correcting the insufficiencies, getting the right omega-3s in. So I get their body out of the stress mode and then I balance their blood sugar and I don't cut carbs. I help them build the plan around their metabolic type, I call it.
You've touched on stress impacting gut health. What are your thoughts on poor sleep and overtraining? What role do they play in impacting gut health?
Tremendous. If we're not sleeping good, that's where we're making our human growth hormone. But if we're also not fueling our body properly, overdoing intermittent fasting, overtraining, that could cause these cortisol spikes and hits to where we're waking up in the middle of the night 10 times to pee, having chronic fatigue at 2, 3 a.m. or p.m. So a lot of it is going to be with that blood sugar. And then I always look at the cortisol patterns on my Dutch test too to see, when we're having these spikes. And then when I'm checking in with my clients, we're looking at how's the energy throughout the day, how's the sleep is, adjusting the meal timing, adjusting, the macronutrients at the meals to balance the blood sugar and support that as well.
Which gut tests have you found are genuinely useful in guiding treatment? Because there are a number of different ones and you've touched on some of them.
Yeah.
But are there any that people should be cautious about, in terms of
I
relying on the
don't like the
results of those?
generic ones that are on the internet, like Viome and do this food sensitivity test. I love GI map stool test. That
Yeah.
is my top tier that I love. I'm not even a fan too much of Genova. I've had a lot of clients come back that like great tests on Genova. Even I did one and it was like everything's great on Genova. And it was not great. That was like my worst health there.
At the beginning of our chat, you outlined all the different diet approaches that you experienced and that you tried. And I think a lot of women will relate to that because a lot of women go through that. As they're trying to navigate their own health and weight fluctuations, they may try, different types of diets. And, for example, the carnivore diet was very popular for a while, or the paleo diet, and then there's a vegan diet, and there's fermented foods. In terms of nutrition principles, which ones do you think support gut health regardless of that dietary philosophy?
I think none of them. The biggest thing I took away, we're all vegan, fruitarian, carnivore, keto, the GAPS diet. I've done liquidarian. I've lived off of no fiber, like you name it, I've tried it. And When I became dogmatic about my diet and restrictive, that's when my health got worse. When I had my gut issues and I got more limited with food, that's when your diversity shrinks. Then you can't expand that diet. We want the diversity, but we have to look at the individual, what their gut can handle, what they're going through, and what fits best with their lifestyle too, what's sustainable for them. The biggest thing that I see is a lot of women think we need to do very low carb diets, but they don't understand that carbs regulate cortisol. So when your carbs get way too low, initially, for every 1 gram of carb, your body holds on to 3 to 6 grams of water. So you may be flushing out that water, feeling lean the first few weeks, but then the muscle pumps goes. Then it starts impacting your thyroid and your hormones. Your sleep starts going. Your blood sugar starts being up and down. We need all macronutrients. It's just about finding the right ratios for each individual.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on daily intake of fiber? Again, there's lots of different thoughts out there, but keen to hear what you have found has worked with your clients.
Yeah. Again, it's different. If someone has chronic gut issues, then yeah, they may have the RDA, say for women, 20 to 25 grams. But I have some women that we got to start 10 grams because their gut is so sensitive and they could feel just all the nerves in it. And then we got to heal the gut and expand because it's too much roughage. I have some people that they need that. They come from these vegan diets on these 60 grams of fiber a day and their body's used to it and they need that to go to the bathroom. So again, it's working with the individual, and that's where I have a starting point for my client depending on what they're going through with their health, and then we build off of that. But I don't believe that, hey, this is the one number we need to be at. Fiber is great for us. It has so many benefits, but we have to look at that individual. And for some individuals, like for me, fiber was something my body was just like, it caused me so much pain. And that was something that I had to heal my body and then slowly expand my diet in order to get myself to that place.
It's a really important point that you make, because in the biohacking space, there is so much discussion around the importance of daily fiber intake and making sure that you have sufficient fiber to ensure that you've got the good bacteria and a good balance of the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. But it's not necessarily always the case for everybody, as you've just highlighted. So in that school of thought, I'd like to do some rapid fire questions with you.
Yes, let's do it, girl.
Have a little bit of fun, and let's try and do some myth busting if we can.
Let's do it.
So, myth or fact, does everyone need a gut cleanse?
What do you call a gut cleanse, though?
Well, in traditional forms, that people would have to go on a detox and abstain from certain types of food and no?
Myth.
One food you wish more women ate every day?
Papaya.
Papaya. Why?
Papaya is very high in I can never pronounce that word, papain. So it's really good for your gut health. It's great for digestion, your skin, tons of nutrients in it as well, and bowel regularity.
Yeah, it's got those enzymes, right, which are really good. Yeah, like pineapple. One food that you think women should be eating less of?
Oh gosh, anything in a box, processed food.
Yeah, agree on that one. One gut health trend you'd happily see disappear?
Any type of supplement in terms of take this greens powder, take this probiotic, any of those supplement fast money makings.
Yeah. Your favorite fermented food?
Carrots.
Carrots?
I make them.
Is coffee a friend or a foe?
It's a foe for me.
Okay.
For me.
Mm-hmm. Fiber target that every woman should aim for?
I mean, the goal, the RDA is 20 to 25 grams.
Most underrated lifestyle habit for a healthier microbiome?
Just getting yourself out. Daily walk. Could it be a post-meal walk to help with digestion, blood glucose, and cortisol?
And one test that every woman with chronic digestive systems should discuss with her healthcare provider?
GI map stool test.
And what's one thing that you do every single day to look after your own gut health?
I still do my 4-6 breathing every single day before my meals, even if it's just 1 to 3 minutes.
Fabulous.
With my post-meal walk. My post-meal walk too. I have my little walking treadmill.
I like the post-meal walk because that's something I do regularly. I find it really helps with digestion. And I think that everybody should be doing that. It's such a great little hack to do. And it's so easy and accessible, and it's free and everybody can do it. So
yeah. You don't need to spend thousands on vibration plates and all these extra things. Just like move your body.
Yeah, Yeah, 100%. Hey, Elizabeth, it's been so fun chatting to you today. You just have an absolute extensive knowledge regarding the gut health, and it's amazing the work that you do to help so many women. So thanks for all that you do for all the women around the world. If somebody would like to get in touch with you or get more information about how you can help them, how can they reach out to you?
So I am all over the internet, Elizabeth Aylor Fitness. So get on my Instagram, get on my YouTube. And if you need help on your healing journey, send me over the DM ready on Instagram. I will reach out to you one-on-one. My whole goal is to help as many women as possible.
Fabulous. Thanks so much for joining me on the pod today, Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, that's a wrap for today's podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And if you'd like to learn more about biohacking, go ahead and sign up on my website at www.biohack-her.com to get a free copy of my 5 top biohacks to get you kick-started. While you're there, you can also check out my blog page for more tips on biohacking. If you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, you can do so on Apple, Spotify, and Google Play. Let us know if there's anyone you'd like us to talk to in particular, and we'll endeavour to get them on the podcast. Until next time, remember to live well longer.